Hello, and welcome to another episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and today we're going to be talking about cravings and what your mind and body are really telling you when you are having a craving. Because I think it's really important to understand the psychology, the nervous system, all the different things that are going on with a craving. I think it can be really easy to just name everything as a craving and just think it's a really overwhelming thing. But cravings really have this opportunity to give you a lot of insight into yourself. And ultimately, self awareness is kind of the first domino when it comes to healing emotional eating, when it comes to getting control over your hunger, when it comes to really anything related to a permanent solution to body confidence, self love. So, I'm excited to talk about this today because I think it's really important. And I have a really intimate understanding of it. Back in the early 2000s, I was in a constant negotiation with my brain. I was in a constant push and pull with my brain over foods that I felt like I urgently needed to eat immediately. Like thinking back now to about 20 years ago in the early 2000s, I was in my early 20s. I can viscerally feel in my body that feeling of almost like some foreign body took over my body and forced me to eat. It was like there was no other option, that real, just intense sense of urgency. And if you've ever experienced a craving for food like that, it's intense, right? Like it totally takes over your nervous system, your heart beats fast, your brain gets foggy, and this intense feeling of need takes over. It's like this need. And it took me the better part of a decade to to change. And it was all consuming. I felt totally out of control, and I really had a hard time making the craving go away. It was like 10 years, 10 plus years of just this, almost like I was in this toxic relationship with myself, which essentially it is, but it's like I couldn't trust how I would feel moment to moment, right? Like one second I would feel totally calm, good around food, and then the next second I would have this some sort of craving, and then I felt like when that would happen, my whole day would get shifted, right? So I would, if I didn't have a craving, it was almost like I felt in control, but then a craving would come over and I would come over me and I would feel out of control. And adding on to that, adding on to that was that when I would give into a craving, it made me feel so much guilt, which meant that it would be this cycle where I would give into a craving, I'd feel guilt, and then I would eat more because it's like already like, screw it. I already effed up, right? So now I used food as almost like a way to punish myself. And it was all just one big cycle of self hate. When I think back, I never really felt that inner sense of calm security, like I could trust my experience, like my current experience. I was always worried that the other shoe would drop, that something would happen where I would feel out of control of my own. For me, it was one of the worst things about being an emotional eater, about struggling with binging. That compounded on to also just not feeling good in my body. And, it really just was this cycle of self hate. But then something happened where I learned to connect to my hunger cues from a place of truth. And that meant that I now had this small sense of control over this urgent, intense feelings that would arise. Because let's be honest, it's not that cravings go away when you're recovered from emotional eating or you're recovered from binge eating. It's not that the cravings go away, it's that you know how to be with the intense sensations of a craving without having to give into it. So I think that's where a lot of people get mistaken, right? Where a lot of people get thrown off. They think that to be recovered, it means you're never going to feel a craving again. It's just you're never going to have that urge. But that's not right. That's not true. Recovery isn't never having the craving. It's knowing how to engage with the craving in a more adaptive and healthier way. And it's why, I really just preach this from the rooftops. Overcoming food addiction is probably the hardest addiction you can get over. You can try to recover from because you can't abstain from food. You can't just decide that you're not going to have it anymore. You need to learn how to develop a new dynamic, not only with food, because it's not just food. It's your relationship to the feelings you have about food and how you can be with and engage with those feelings. Okay, so it's not about the food as much as it is about you learning how to grow your capacity to be with heightened, intense, often just uncomfortable feelings. And it all changed for me when I learned how to do that. I learned how to be with those intense feelings of a craving, of urgency, without having to give into it. And not because I willed myself out of it, not because I made myself like strong armed myself or white knuckled myself and somehow had some crazy willpower. That's not what it was. It was because I had resourced this skill where I knew from a place of self-trust that what I was feeling, it wasn't hunger, right? I wasn't hungry physically. I wasn't like hungry for the food. And I also knew that the food isn't that powerful. I wasn't necessarily like the food wasn't some like voodoo thing over me. And because I developed this skill of inner power where I knew that what I was feeling wasn't real physical hunger, it gave me the sense of internal confidence that I could say no to a craving. And it also gave me that sense of empowerment rather than feeling like I was depriving myself. So I could walk away from saying no to a craving without feeling like, oh no, I'm going back into diet culture. I would walk away from that being like, I am honoring myself. I am truly, truly honoring myself now. And there was this spaciousness about it. But what I want you to really understand is that I didn't not have the intense feeling of craving. I did. And I still do to this day. To this day, I still have feelings of cravings. And I sometimes I give into the cravings, right? But I never anymore go into that spiral of guilt or regret or a spiral that takes me into a 3-day binge bender, where like I become very all or nothing, black and white. That doesn't happen to me anymore. And that is what it means to be recovered. That is what it means to be recovered. Okay. So I understood the difference without a doubt between a craving that was motivated by covering up something, right? So I understood when a craving was like, I'm having this craving because I'm trying to cover up some sort of, some sort of emotional nervous system dysregulation experience. And I understood a craving, which was more of a desire where I wanted something that would make me feel good to have it, right? So sometimes, I walk past like an ice cream shop and I'm like, oh man, I really, really want that. And I have it, right? I guess you can call that a craving, but you can also call that a desire, right? Recovering from emotional eating and really knowing yourself and having that inner power and that self-trust is knowing the difference between a craving and a desire. And so that's really big, right? That's really big to learn that. And let's start by understanding when we talk about a craving, what it really means. Because oftentimes a craving is not hunger. Okay. A craving is not physical hunger. However, a craving is emotional hunger. It can be linked to emotional hunger. And that means that there's a certain need, there's a certain feeling that we want to experience. And that's what we're really craving. And so, therefore, we're craving, we're craving something sweet because we want to feel loved. We're craving something crunchy or crunchy because we're anxious that maybe there's something that we have to do, and we're anxious about doing it or we're not doing it, right? So the crunch gives us some sort of feeling of productivity, right? We're craving something spicy because maybe somewhere deep down we're not connected to our purpose, we're bored, right? There's something that's kind of like we're looking for adventure, right? We're looking for something to we're looking for change. Okay, so these are some sort of tastes that when you have cravings that sometimes can be attributed to. And it's also important to think about hormones and how our hormones can impact cravings, right? Like certain times of the month, sleep, adrenaline, cortisol, right? All of these different hormones that are impacted by our lifestyle in the sense of what we do, but our lifestyle also in the sense of what we metabolize energetically, right? What is our environment presenting to us that we're metabolizing, and our hormones are reacting to it? And so that's why this is all really nuanced. But it also is really simple. It's also really, really simple. And I just want to address that cravings are such an interesting way to observe and learn about ourselves in this way, so that we can really do the authentic work of healing emotional eating, and we can do the authentic work of getting control of our hunger. And it's not even ironic, but the great thing about this is that once you understand this and you get this and you apply the skills of growing your capacity to be with the sensations of craving, so you don't feel like you give into it and you don't get into that cycle of self-hate, weight loss is actually a byproduct. It's really it's a natural thing that happens. And so I think that's really cool, and that's really great, because oftentimes we focus so much on weight loss, which, we make it such a big thing that we have such a heavy lift that we have to do, and, adjust our lives. And, we kind of focus on that. But the thing is when you focus on the foundation of your emotional state and your energy, and, you start to really understand how to be there for yourself from an emotional place and how to create emotional safety for yourself, these things become much easier, much simpler. And so I just want to leave you with this reflection question today. You could just take a moment, and the next time that you feel this urgency or this craving, ask yourself, what is your body really asking for? Right? Is there an emotional experience going on underneath? Just be there with that, right? And then see if that question, that contemplation, that reflection, that space that you've created with this curiosity towards yourself allows you to feel more, just more in control, which is what we really want, right? So thank you so much for joining me again today with another episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. And you can join me weekly for another new episode where I go over strategies, tips to help you feel in control of your hunger, naturally lose weight, sustain it with lasting change. And on my website, I have lots of free resources. I'm also offering a new program coming soon. So I do have a wait list for this program. It is a new program that I'm really excited for. It's going to have accountability, it's going to have coaching, lots of stuff, really accessible. Very excited for it. So you can go on to the website or onto my Instagram, and you can sign up for that waitlist so you can get the introductory price when the offer drops. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.